It's a story about a team member that I had. It was a few years ago now, but I'll never forget it. I actually posted it on LinkedIn, and someone said, "Wow, this is the best thing that I've seen on the internet today." Which I was like, "Oh, that came from me." It was one of my team, one of my stories. So with my team, I've always tried to get them to do extra if they can, not as a trying to get more work out of them and not paying them, but trying to get them to take on some extra responsibilities as a learning thing. Obviously, some were paid and some weren't. This particular story, this wasn't paid. So I had a team member. The team member's name was Paul. I'll never forget him for the rest of my life. He had this infectious smile. I remember his interview. His mum came in with the interview because he was very, very nervous, and that was absolutely fine. So he had this infectious smile, and he was always sort of, his laugh was amazing. So what I did is I decided that I was going to make him head of my smiles department. And this is not taking the mick. This was a serious thing that I was considering, and I wanted Paul to do it. And in my leadership skills training, I asked the leaders and the managers on the course, or I tell them that it's a good idea to look at your team members and think of them as a 10 out of 10. And when I say, think about all your team now, think about your team members, are they all a 10 out of 10? And some of them go, not too sure about that. And we discuss why. We discuss the reasons why aren't they a 10 out of 10? And in most cases, it's this manager or leader that's actually done the hiring. So they took this person on and they don't believe that this person is a 10 out of 10, which is crazy. So when I talk about Paul and I talk about this story, I say that he was part-time, 2 or 3 shifts a week, needed his mum to come into the interview with me, which was absolutely fine, needed his mum to come in on the first day and just give that little bit of extra support, which again was fine. And then I let them know that Paul had Down syndrome, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to give him this role, because he had that beautiful, beautiful grin and that smile. And then I say, do you think that Paul is a 10 out of 10? And then most of the managers or leaders on the course, or pretty much all of them, I don't think anyone's actually said no, but they'll say, well, yes, he's a 10 out of 10. And then I say, well, is he a 10 out of 10 because he's disabled? Why are you giving him 10 out of 10? And normally it's because he's got Down syndrome that they're actually giving him 10 out of 10. They like the idea of his smile. They like the idea that he's in there at work. They like the idea that his mum's come in to give him a little bit of support and all that sort of stuff. So I'll come back to Paul in a sec, but really within leadership, you need to see your team as a 10 out of 10, because it's going to affect the way that you manage them. It's going to affect favoritism potentially. It's going to affect your biases and all that sort of stuff. So try working on that. It's something that we discuss in the Online Growth Academy for new and aspiring managers. Go back to Paul. I said to Paul, I said, right, what I want you to do is I want you to be head of my smiles department. Like I said, it's not to take the mick or anything like that. And what you had to do is you had to bring in a joke of the day that was respectful and everybody in the community and all the communities and our community and everything would appreciate. And he did, and he started bringing in these jokes of the day. Now, me being the manager, I had privy to these jokes of the day, so I went in on one of them into his team, and they used to have team briefs, and that's when he used to bring up the joke of the day. And one of them, it was so bad, it was awful, and I'll never forget it. And he said, "What goes ha ha plonk?" And everyone was like, "What? Okay," and nobody actually got it. And he said, it's a person laughing their head off. And I just thought, that is terrible. I mean, it is awful. He must have got it from his dad, probably, because it's a proper dad joke. But I just thought it was hilarious. And this was, like I say, a few years ago, and I still remember it. It was that bad. I want to cry now just thinking about it. So he would bring these jokes of the day in. Then what happened is that a member of a different team went in and said, "Hi, Paul, what's the joke of the day? Can you tell me what the joke of the day is?" And he was like, I don't know if I should tell you. Is it just for my team? Is it for any team? Is it I don't know. I need to go and ask my manager. So he went and asked his manager. Now, his manager was a proper leader. I mean, his manager was amazing, and I was so proud of them all in that team. And he said, "Ooh, that's a good question. What are we going to do? I tell you what, we'll have a meeting. We'll have a team meeting, or in our next team meeting, because I had regular team meetings. In our next team meetings, what I want you to do is I want you to present the idea, I want you to present this question, and I want you to ask the rest of the team and see what everybody thinks. You don't have to stand up in front of anybody. You can stay in your chair. You don't have to use the screen or anything like that. So it's nothing over the top. But you ask the question and we'll have a vote and we'll have a discussion and all that. And that's what they did. Fair play. And in that meeting, they brought up, and Paul came up and he prepared for it. He was nervous, he was excited, he was anxious, he was all of these sort of things. But because he knew everybody, he was happy to do it. So he did it. And obviously, they decided that everybody should share the joke of the day, as in they could share it with different departments, which was just awesome. I mean, he came out and he was on cloud nine. Talk about growing somebody's confidence. Talk about embedding people in the team, getting the team to gel, and that's what his line manager did, which was amazing. And then, of course, the rest of the team, they found out what had happened, which they thought was amazing as well. And then they started to go and ask for the joke of the day. And this ridiculous, a lot of the managers and leaders that when I'm delivering the courses, they're just like, well, that's just ridiculous. But this ridiculous question, this thing that I didn't realize that this was going to have this kind of impact or as much impact. But actually what it did is it brought people from different departments and they were asking what the joke of the day was, which was just phenomenal. Now, we didn't thankfully have many boundaries or borders between our different departments. And that's something that I consciously worked on, part of my culture, work on every single day to bring these barriers. And what happened was, if there were any barriers, this would reduce those barriers because people were going between different departments and sharing the joke of the day because Paul allowed them to share it. So that department could share it with that department didn't necessarily have to go to Paul because they were so busy or whatever it was. And it was just that little idea, that little thing that I asked him to do as an extra responsibility, that made him more than a 10 out of 10. He was absolutely, I mean, the jokes were not 10 out of 10, but it put a smile on everybody's face. And that's what I suggest to managers, leaders, team leaders, supervisors, is to think outside the box. Think outside the box when you're coming up with ideas to embed into your team. In fact, in that growth academy, which is down there, it's the first activity that I do in the management skills, and it's this out of box thinking. Now, you get it on a lot of training courses where the trainer's like, oh, think outside the box, but they never show you where the bleeding box is. You know, what is the box? What does that mean, thinking outside the box? And it's the first activity that we do, because all that academy, this 12-month academy here, is all about thinking outside the box and doing something differently. There's no point copying another company or whatever they're doing, because that might not be working. There's no good copying. Like I say, it's just, if it's not working, it's probably not going to work for you. There's no reason why you can't trial these things, but try to come up with your own ideas. Try to come up with something that's going to fit with your team. And this joke of the day really did fit with my team. Cool. That's really all I wanted to share today. A quick story about Paul, my head of smiles department, and how he affected the team. How he was a 10 out of 10 because he was Paul. How I'm a 10 out of 10 because I'm Adrian, and how you're 10 out of 10 because you're you. If you want any more information about this academy, if you go onto my website, which is Ultimate Leadership Training, then you'll see a tab in the top right hand side. If you click the link under it, you can find it. You can Google Adrian Close Training Consultant, or you can send me a message, which is down there somewhere, on support@adrianclose.com, and I'll be happy to share a sneaky peek into the academy and let you know what it's all about. All right, well, have a fantastic rest of the day, and speak to you soon. Cheers. I have to leave it a second or two, otherwise I cut myself off.